Remember this sound? For millions of us, this was the sound of our first phone, our connection to the world. And this brand, Nokia, wasn't just a company, it was a phenomenon. In the late 90s and early 2000s, Nokia was king. They didn't just sell phones. They defined what a mobile phone was. From the iconic 3310, a phone so tough it became a legend, to the revolutionary Un-series that put a powerful computer in your pocket, Nokia was always one step ahead. At its peak, 1 out of every 2 phones sold worldwide was a Nokia. They were innovative, stylish, and built to last. It seemed like their reign would never end. So, what happened? How did a titan that once seemed untouchable fall so far, so fast? This is the epic story of the rise and fall of Nokia. Our story begins not with phones, but with paper, rubber boots and cables. Founded in 1865 in Finland, Nokia was an industrial conglomerate for over a century. It wasn't until the 1980s that they dipped their toes into the nascent world of mobile telecommunications. Their first portable phone, the Mobira Talkman, was a beast, weighing a hefty 5 kilograms. But it was a start. Throughout the late 80s and early 90s, Nokia relentlessly pushed the boundaries. They launched the world's first handheld phone for GSM networks, the Nokia 1011, which set the standard for digital mobile communication. The secret to Nokia's early success was simple but profound. They focused on the user. While competitors were building clunky, complicated devices for business executives, Nokia made phones for people. They were easy to use, with intuitive menus anyone could navigate. They introduced features we now take for granted, like customizable ringtones and the beloved game Snake. The Nokia 3210, launched in 1999, was a game-changer. It had no external antenna, featured predictive T9 text input, and came with swappable covers, allowing for personal expression. It sold over 160 million units, becoming one of the best-selling phones of all time. Then came the Nokia 3310 in the year 2000. This phone wasn't just a device, it was a cultural icon. It was affordable, incredibly durable, and its battery lasted for what felt like an eternity. The 3310 cemented Nokia's reputation for quality and reliability. In a world of fragile electronics, Nokia phones were built like tanks. This focus on hardware excellence and user-friendly design made them the undisputed champion of the mobile world. Their slogan, "Connecting People," wasn't just marketing, it was their reality. They were connecting hundreds of millions of people, from bustling cities to remote villages. By the mid-2000s, Nokia was at the absolute zenith of its power. Their Symbian operating system was the dominant smartphone platform, running on a vast array of devices. The Un-series, like the N95, was a marvel of engineering. Launched in 2007, the N95 was a true pocket computer. It had a 5-megapixel camera with a Carl Zeiss lens, GPS, Wi-Fi, a web browser, and a dual-slider design that revealed media keys or a numeric keypad. It was a masterpiece, a device that could do almost anything. On paper, Nokia had everything: brand loyalty, global market share, cutting-edge technology, and a massive research and development budget. They seemed invincible, but deep within the company, cracks were beginning to show. Nokia had become a victim of its own success. It was a massive, sprawling organization with multiple competing divisions. This internal bureaucracy slowed down decision-making to a crawl. While their engineers were creating brilliant hardware, the software side was struggling. Symbian, once revolutionary, was becoming clunky and outdated. It was difficult for developers to create apps for, and the user experience felt inconsistent across different Nokia devices. They were trying to be everything to everyone, releasing dozens of phone models each year, which diluted their focus and created a confusing product lineup. And then, on January 9, 2007, a storm arrived from Cupertino, California. Steve Jobs walked onto a stage and introduced the iPhone. At first, Nokia executives weren't worried. They dismissed it. The iPhone didn't have a physical keyboard. You couldn't swap the battery, and it was exclusive to one carrier in the US. It seemed like a niche, expensive toy compared to Nokia's robust, practical phones. What they failed to grasp was the monumental shift in philosophy the iPhone represented. It wasn't about calls, texts, or camera megapixels anymore. It was about the software, the user experience, and the ecosystem of apps. The iPhone's touch-based interface was fluid and intuitive, making Symbian feel ancient overnight. A year later, Google entered the ring with Android. Unlike Apple's closed system, Android was open source, free for any manufacturer to use and customize. This was the final nail in the coffin for Zoom. Manufacturers like Samsung, HTC, and Motorola flocked to Android, creating a tidal wave of innovative and affordable smartphones. Suddenly, Nokia wasn't just competing with one slick device from Apple. They were competing with an entire army of Android phones. Nokia was trapped. Their own hardware was still excellent, but their Symbian software was a sinking ship. They were too proud and too invested to simply adopt Android. They believed they could fix Symbian or create something better. In a desperate bid to reclaim their throne, Nokia made a fateful decision in 2011. They announced a strategic partnership with Microsoft, abandoning their own operating systems, Symbian and the promising but late MeeGo, in favor of Windows Phone. The CEO at the time, Stephen Elop, famously described Nokia as standing on a burning platform, needing to take a leap of faith. The leap was into Microsoft's arms. The Lumia series was born from this partnership. The phones themselves were classic Nokia, beautifully designed with fantastic cameras and vibrant colors. The Windows Phone interface was also fresh and different, but it was too little, too late. The world had moved on. The app ecosystems for iOS and Android were exploding, with hundreds of thousands of apps that simply weren't available on Windows Phone. Consumers and developers had already chosen their platforms, and Nokia was on the outside looking in. The Lumia phones, despite their quality, failed to capture the public's imagination or gain significant market share. Sales plummeted. The company that once dominated the world was now losing billions of dollars every quarter. The burning platform analogy had become a self-fulfilling prophecy. The final chapter of this tragic fall came in 2013, when Microsoft announced it would acquire Nokia's devices and services business. The Finnish giant, the pride of a nation, was selling its most famous division to the American software company. It was the end of an era. The Nokia that everyone knew and loved was gone. For a few years, Microsoft continued to sell phones under the Nokia and later Microsoft Lumia brands, but they never gained traction, and eventually Microsoft wrote off the entire acquisition as a massive loss. So what are the lessons from Nokia's story? It's a cautionary tale about the dangers of complacency. Nokia had the talent, the money, and the brand, but they missed the seismic shift from hardware to software and ecosystems. They underestimated their competitors and were too slow to react due to internal conflicts and corporate pride. They were a hardware company in a software world. But the story doesn't completely end there. The Nokia brand lives on. HMD Global, a Finnish company, now licenses the Nokia name and releases new Android smartphones. They focus on what made the original Nokia great: clean design, reliable performance, and pure software. It's a nod to the past, a second chance. While they may never reclaim the throne, the sight of that familiar logo is a powerful reminder of the giant that once connected the world. A titan that taught us all the importance of innovation and the harsh reality that in the world of technology, no king rules forever. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.